Today, we are going to talk about garden planning. Stick around.
Oh, hey, welcome home.
Good morning, everybody. Cheers. Hope everybody's having a good day. Let's sip on some coffee. It's a little early here this morning. No good happy juice in here other than coffee this morning, but cheers, everybody. Today, I want to talk about garden planning. Here it is almost the 1st of November, so most people would probably say, why now? Well, my answer is why not? If you're like me, unfortunately, your season has come to an end. Last weekend, I spent most of the time getting the last plants out of the garden. Now's the time we start to get everything prepped with cover crops. It's kind of a downtime, but now is the best time to actually plan. Because if some of the things that you need to be doing are just right around the corner. So now what we want to do is go through step by step on what I'm doing and what most people should be doing to get everything ready for next season. It's always exciting to plan ahead and think about next season. Just because our season is over doesn't mean that we should stop having fun and stop enjoying this thing called gardening. So step one is deciding what your goal is. And this can change from season to season. Last year, when we moved in here, everything was so busy, we didn't really have a goal. Coming from the apartment, um, things were totally different. I mean, here we've got more room. Didn't have a clear plan. Didn't sit down and do this last year. So my goal was to just throw some stuff out there, have some fun, and see what happened. And I did that. I mean, we had some fun. We planted some stuff. We didn't plant the right stuff. We planted too many of one thing, not enough of another. Um, we didn't have clear goals. So, decide what your goal is. Is it a hobby? Is it to feed your family? Is it one plant? Is it a big garden? Decide what your goal is before you get started, and it'll save you a lot of headache, I promise. Step number two is now you got to decide your budget. Do you have enough money to take care of what your goal is? Unfortunately, and my wife will attest to this, we don't have enough money to attest to what my goal is. If it was up to me, that entire backyard would be totally full with everything, and I still wouldn't have the time or the money to take care of it all. But you got to be realistic. I mean, some of these things can be so expensive. We're talking about, especially with raised beds like we've got, you know, the soil to fill these things. The amount of money we spent on soil last year when we first got here was more than I anticipated. And of course, the money that we'll be spending here in the spring to add to it, it all adds up. So when you talk about your soil, you talk about buying the raised beds, you're talking about buying fertilizer, you're talking about buying grow lights, and we don't even want to talk about. My wife does not even want to talk about grow lights right now, but you're talking about grow lights. You're talking about all the things involved. Decide how much money you can spend, and don't overdo it. This should be fun, but you don't want to do it. You don't put yourself in a bind. You don't want to do something that you can't afford. So obviously, you definitely budgeting is something that you definitely need to do when planting your garden. Step number three, you got to decide how much time you got. You know, um, it does take a lot of time to keep up a garden. You're talking about watering, you're talking about fertilizing, you're talking about weeding, you're talking about pruning, you're talking about harvesting. A lot of things go into it. Decide how much time you've got. The time, the budget, the space, those all should really, factor in. And of course, the goals should factor in to your planning. But how much time do you have? You know, when we moved in, of course, I wanted to be just go full out straight on. We didn't have the time, and the results showed we didn't have the time. It just seems like for some reason we were just too busy. There was something to do with the house. Newly married, newly moved in. It was we just didn't have the time. So how you got to decide how much time can you put into it. Step number, I think this is 4. I'm going to take my shoes off and start counting here in a minute. This is step number 4. Decide on your location. Obviously, your space is going to decide on your location somewhat, but you also want to have everything where you're going to get enough sunlight. Not too much shade. So you want to decide on your location. Where you put your things can be important. Some of these plants, onions being one of them. If you have them, in the shade all day and they're not getting enough sunlight, you're not going to have any success. Same thing with tomatoes. So location is critical, but obviously, if you are limited, and in our previous life we were limited on space, you can make the best out of it. But location is very important. So plan out the perfect spot for your location if you have the room. This right here is our current setup that we have back here. Now, here in a few seconds, we're going to be talking about how all of this is going to change. But what I'll do is let me just walk you through how we had it set up last year. Last year, this bed right here was nothing but melons and had some carrots over here. This bed over here, we had some lima beans and some October beans. Here we had some hot peppers and some green beans over here. Obviously, there's still the corn from last year. Over through here, we didn't have any raised beds, but we used these grow bags for tomatoes, potatoes, and I think that's all we had in there was the tomatoes and potatoes. This bed here we used for green peppers. We had green, red, orange, and purple. This bed right here was used for onions. This one over here was used for cucumbers and squash. And then we had the strawberries hanging in the basket. Now we do have a greenhouse back here that has potatoes in it right now, which look at those potatoes. My goodness. But in here we had peanuts. So that's the current setup. Let's go back inside and talk about setup for next year. So now step number 5, and this is where things get exciting for me. It's time to design your layout. We just went through the current layout. Now what I want to do is all those grow bags that we had for the tomatoes and the peppers, I want to put 4 raised beds there. It just didn't look good. The things didn't flow for me. I think putting raised beds in there will make both of us happy. I know Missy, she'll be pleased with the way it's going to look. But now's the time to decide your layout. Okay, so what I did is I have come up with the layout on how I want to do it. So the addition going for next year, well, don't tell my wife, but I've got two different layouts here, and we'll see which one we get to go with next year. But I've already got the four new raised beds in here. Okay. So step number 5 is to design your layout. And the way I did it was the way we did it is when we moved in over here, we did see where the sun come up, where the sun set, morning, midday, and in the afternoon, which location would get the most sunlight, and that's where we decided we was going to put everything. But step number 5, design your layout for the upcoming season. Step number 6, you better decide on what you want to plant. That's one of the most important things. When you decide on what you want to plant, obviously you want to plant the things you like. You don't want to plant no lima beans if you don't like any lima beans, unless you have friends that like lima beans. But you want to plant the things you're going to like. Also, you want to plant and design for the things that you're going to eat. We really screwed up. Well, let's say I really screwed up last year on both of those. Okay. For some reason, for me, growing tomatoes, different varieties of tomatoes, is something I really got excited about. So we had 9 tomato plants. There's no way both of us are going to eat all the tomatoes off of 9 tomato plants. So I really screwed up on my design and deciding, planning what we're going to eat. There was no way. We wasted so many stupid tomatoes, and we've decided we're not going to do that next year. Those nine tomatoes will go down to probably 4 at the most, and screwed up and planted them all at the same time. Didn't stagger them. So deciding what you want to plant is, and how much you want to plant is a big key in all your planting. So for us, like last year, I had never grown green beans. So we did green beans, but we didn't grow enough green beans. We didn't have enough to can. So in my plan for next year, we're going to have hopefully enough potatoes to get us through a year, enough onions to get us through a year, enough garlic to get us through a year, and fewer tomatoes, fewer green peppers. Oh my gosh, we got green peppers out the yin yang. I got them in freezers. We gave some away. I've got some here we still need to give away. But you want to decide what you want to plant. So we planted melons. Probably not going to plant melons next year. What you get for the amount of space it takes up, it's just not worth it to me. I mean, I love melons. Missy said it'd be cheaper if we can just go to the store once a month and buy a melon. But you definitely want to decide what you want to plant in the amount of space you got, and plant what you're going to eat. That is step number 6. Step number 7 is planning out your plant spacing. And I've done this. I went through and planted and have already decided how many onions I can put in this bed, how many tomatoes I can put in that bed, how many potato plants I'm going to put in this bed. You want to decide your spacing. You want to avoid overcrowding, and obviously you want to avoid not doing enough. There's nothing worse than having a big old bed and only one plant in it. You don't want that either. But you want to sit down. You want to go through, see how much spacing each thing needs, and decide on how many plants you're going to put in the limited space that you got there. But definitely, spacing is very important to the success of your garden. Step number 8, you got to figure out what zone you're in. Now, why is this important? We're in zone 7A. The reason you want to figure out what zone you're in is to figure out when your average last frost is at the beginning of the season and your average first frost is at the end of the season. You can Google all these things. Here in our location, Virginia Tech has a nice little printout. And they tell me here that in zone 7A, our last spring frost is anywhere between April 15th and April 25th. And that is correct, because last year when we first moved in, I think I had everything already out there, probably by April the 25th. Whereas where we were before, even though it wasn't too far away, the last frost was scheduled for, I think it was May the 7th. And here, the first frost is between October the 15th and October the 25th. And that's spot on because we've already had it. But here, this thing right here is fantastic, because on here on this Virginia Tech thing, it'll tell me if I go down through here and I find beans, it'll tell me when I need to plant them outside. It also will tell me when I need to start them inside. And that right there is very, very important. So you definitely want to know what zone you're in. You want to figure out when your average last frost is, when your average first frost is. That way you can start doing the next step. Step number 9, and this is the last one that I've got here right now. But this one is starting your calendar. You've already decided on what you're going to plant, where you're going to plant it. Hopefully, you've decided when you're going to plant it, you need to know when you're going to start things. So the next step is get you a calendar. Write down everything that you want to plant. Go through and look and plan out when you want to start things and write them down. Just like here in February, where we're at, I want to experiment. We're right on the line for onions for the short day, the intermediate, and the long day. So this year I want to experiment on all three. Here, if I research it in zone 7A, I can start my onion seeds inside anytime now for next year. Based upon our daylight time, it tells me that they should start bulbing right around the middle of February. So if I start my seeds inside now and transplant them in February, and they'll bulb early spring. So like here, I've already got for February the 5th to fix my bed cover so I can transplant my onions. So you want to get you a good calendar, write everything down, write when to start your seeds inside, write down when to pull up your cover crops, write down when you want to add compost to anything. You want to write down everything. When you want to start your seeds, plant them outside, make you a good calendar and stick to your plan, and you should have a good year. Well, hopefully that helped a little bit as far as, talking about planting the garden. I think it's very exciting. Like I said, the current season is over, but that doesn't mean we ever stop. Gardening for me is mentally year round. I probably think more about it right now than I did in the middle of June. Obviously, in the middle of June, you're too busy doing things and you don't have time to think about it. Now I'm getting excited about next year. I can sit here and think about the successes that we had, the failures that we had. And that's where planning for me is so much fun, because now we know what worked. We know what didn't work. We know what worked for us. What didn't work for us, obviously, having just too many stinking tomatoes. It did not work. Well, let me take that back. It worked, and they were fantastic, or as my mom would want to hear, they're phenomenal. But we had too many. The last thing I want to do is to do this and waste a bunch of good food that the good Lord gives us. I don't want that. We did give some away, but we couldn't find enough people to give everything away to. So, planning for me is to avoid that. I want to have enough of the food that we really like, grow enough that we can hopefully have it later on. We didn't grow enough beans to can. We didn't grow enough potatoes to have until next go around. But we're going to get there, and planning helps. It's very exciting um, to think about the changes coming up. Yeah, I told you I want to add those 4 raised beds. What I didn't show you is I've got another one. I may want to add 7 or 8 more raised beds, um, but I'll have to get that okayed by the wife. And I don't think she would argue with me. She enjoys it too. She doesn't enjoy it as much as I do, but I think she enjoys it. She definitely liked the food, so that does help. But now is the time to get excited about next year. And obviously, you know, anytime that you can keep from being going through the seasonal ups and downs that's getting ready to hit us, that definitely helps as well. It's also, exciting to start your seedlings for next year. So hopefully the planning helps. And like I say, I apologize for all the rust. If you're new to the channel, please hit that like button and subscribe. Being new or switching channels, need all the help we can get. So if you like us, hit the like button, subscribe. If you don't like us, please share us with all your enemies so I can annoy the snot out of them. And we'll see you next time.